Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Oh, the weather outside is frightful, and my dear, you're so delightful. There's sense with no place to go. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
But not in California.
No, and it's not frightful weather at all.
No, it was cloudy today. I was a little scared. I was like, what if it rains? There could be an accident.
It was cloudy today. Some people back east are like, screw you guys.
Yeah, screw you guys. See, like New York and Boston have had like the past 4 years have had the worst winters in their like in the past like I don't know 5 decades or whatever.
I feel about every year we talk about this where we're like, boy, California, winters are sure tough here.
Yeah, we're enduring it.
It's tough.
I put on a sweater today.
Yeah, I put on a windbreaker. It was awesome.
You did it. Hey everybody, how's it going? You are listening to The Command Zone. I'm your host, Jimmy Wong.
How is it? It's Josh Lee Kwai.
And this is episode 137. It's coming out a little later this week because I was just in Barcelona last week, so we're trying to rush this one out. Hopefully, not too late. But it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, Terry's going to have to turn and burn on this one, but he says he's good for it. So thank you, Terry.
Thanks, T. Before we start the show, we have a couple of things in the upkeep. The first is that this show is brought to you by the one and only CardKingdom.com. They have been our sponsor now for a little bit, and it's been great. I haven't heard a single piece of negative feedback about Card Kingdom, and I don't expect to because they have amazing customer service. They address any issues that arise immediately, and their shipping is ace.
Super fast shipping, which around this time of year, very important. I think when you're hearing this, you've still got some time to order cards and have them arrive for the holidays for those gifts that you've, done what I do and put them off, haven't ordered in time.
Yeah.
Do you know that I haven't bought a single Christmas present yet?
Oof.
Yeah, so I'm going to need Card Kingdom pretty bad.
My brother bought a Christmas present for my parents, and I gave him money for it. So does that count?
Yeah, counts. You've done something.
I've shopped more than you have. So to buy your cards, make sure you go to cardkingdom.com/commandzone, and that will get you straight to our referral link, and any cards that you buy, they'll know that we sent you there, and it helps out the show.
The other thing,
Ooh.
we have a Patreon now. It's patreon.com/commandzone, and that's a way you can directly support the show.
Yeah, and it's been great. We've had an incredible, successful start to the Patreon. We cannot thank you guys enough, and as a result, we released a brand new gameplay video. Yeah, it's one of the tiered rewards on the Patreon. It's what we want to have the Patreon be, which is helps us make bigger and cooler content on a more consistent basis. So stuff like Kitchen Table Fables, our Game Night series, all that good stuff.
And as part of the Patreon, we agreed to read one name off from one patron each episode. So this will be our first time doing that, and we're going to name off our very first patron. So this is the first person when we launched that supported us. Go ahead, Jimmy. You do the honors.
Diego Martinez.
Diego!
Thank you so much for supporting the show, Diego. You're awesome. You were on the ball. You saw the announcement. And you're like, boom, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to give these guys $1 an episode. That's all. And it made a huge difference. It kicked us off. I saw that $1 and I was like, yes, we did it.
Diego, you did not hesitate. Way to go.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Diego. Much appreciated. You're awesome.
So we have some Christmas giveaways to announce also, and this has to do with the Patreon. So if you are a patron, you're going to be eligible to win. We've got some, I guess, leftover product that we're going to be giving away next episode. Next episode will be our sort of best of 2016 year in review episode. It's the awards episode. We're going to talk about like what we think what the community, I guess the patrons think are the best legendary creature of the year, the best non-legendary card of the year, what our best episode was, all kinds of stuff. We're going to wrap up the year, and we're also going to be giving away, what do we got?
We have a Kaladesh bundle.
Previously known as a Fat Pack.
Yes, as well as 2 of the Planeswalker intro decks with Chandra and Nissa featured on them. So 3 lucky people, 3 lucky patrons of our Patreon will be eligible to win those prizes. So make sure, again, you go to patreon.com/commandzone. And again, it's super easy. Even $1 an episode goes a long way. You can set monthly limits so that you make sure you don't go over a certain amount. One good way of looking at it, I used to canvas on the street a lot. $4 a month is $1 an episode for 4 episodes. That is essentially a cup of coffee.
So if you want a chance to win either the Kaladesh bundle or one of the 2 Planeswalker decks, and you're listening to this episode before December 20th, which is when episode 138 comes out and we're going to announce the winners, then you still have a chance to go to patreon.com/commandzone and sign up. And again, Jimmy said any patron level will be eligible to win one of those prizes.
Yep. So thank you guys again for all of your support. We love you all. You're the best.
Oh man, we got one more thing to say to patrons. If you got to join the Patreon because this is where all the stuff's happening right now.
Yeah, right.
Our Deck Doctors series. Early next year, we really want to be talking about some of the new partner commanders, and we'd really like to do some Deck Doctors for that. And so we're looking for our patrons to be. There's a submission form on the Patreon page, and you can submit your decks. And we're specifically looking for some combination of the partner commanders.
Yep, and that's for patrons at the $3 and up level. We're going to only be selecting Deck Doctors from those because you guys are our most dedicated fans, obviously, and we want to reward you guys for being patrons of the show. There's no better way than to Deck Doctor one of your decks.
You know, Jimmy, we've been all over the place lately. Not just you in Barcelona and such. I mean, in the Magic world.
That's right. When you say all over the place, I was like, are you saying I'm like scatterbrains?
I mean, you can find us in a lot of places these days. So Sean Patchen did a nice interview with Jimmy and I both. It's on a website called generaldamagecontrol.com. And he asked us a bunch of questions about why we started the Command Zone and, content creation in general and just a lot of interview type questions. And it was a cool article, a lot of good response. So if you go to generaldamagecontrol.com, you can find that.
Yeah, we'll have these links, of course, in the show notes below. Both of us were recently guests on the Commanders Brew podcast. We had a challenge to take one of the new 4-color commanders and add up to $15 worth of cards in each of the decks to upgrade them. And I mean, I love those guys. We've been friends with them for quite a long time, so it's nice that you've been on the show once already, right?
No, that was my first time.
Oh, cool. It was mine too.
Yeah. So,
All right.
And also we had to talk about budget. Was that hard for you? Because it was hard for me. I was like,
it was
"Man,
really hard for me.
I don't know the budget cards as well as they know all the budget cards.
Yeah. It took me a long time of going through and being like, wow, that's that much? Like, oh gosh, like trying to like cut corners here. Like 70 cents plus 70 cents means I can have a $1.30 card over here, or whatever.
Yeah. You're like jockeying for position with your other picks. Well, the funny thing was when they contacted us, they asked which of the new commanders we wanted to talk about. I was like, I'll choose Atraxa because Jimmy already did all the legwork on it.
Just did the episode, yeah.
Except for that didn't work because none of the cards we talked about added up to the right price range. I had to still do a ton of work.
Yeah.
Backfired.
There's
a new video series that I'm doing with the professor. It's called InResponse. It's a Magic the Gathering style debate show. A lot of fun. We debate sort of the hot topics, hot button issues in Magic, not just for Commander, but for all the different formats or whatever. You can find that on Tolarian Community College on YouTube.
Yeah, I love the show so far. It's a lot of fun seeing you guys go back and forth. And you tweeted this great picture out, which said Prof totally won, Josh won, Prof won, Josh being 3-0, Prof being 3-0, all these 6 comments in a row. And there was like you said, a show's going well when that's the response.
Yeah, and also, by the way, Prof and I very good friends. We just like to debate for fun. A lot of people were a little bit worried that
you
we were
guys should
getting
see them in person. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, people were worried we were getting too heated, and we're like, no, this is what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love Prof. And again, we already mentioned the new gameplay videos. If you have not checked them out, you really need to. Game Nights is what we're calling the series. There's actually 2 episodes. The first episode of Game Nights and then one called Out of the Box. And we're planning to do more. In fact, we're shooting another one this week.
Yeah, and you have a card right in front of you that's going to be in your deck.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
exciting.
So I'm building a new deck for the gameplay series for when we record. And this card, I'm holding up Mind's Dilation. Ooh. So I was I opened 7 boxes of Eldritch Moon total. That's just how many we opened at my place. Just, my girlfriend likes to open packs. I did not get a single Mind's Dilation.
Whoopsies.
I was going through it and I'm like, what? I need this card for this deck. And I did not even have one. But luckily, Jimmy bought 12 foil ones.
12. Okay, 8.
8. Sorry.
I spec'd. I was like, this card
Slandered your
seems
good name.
amazing for Commander, and it's just a very powerful ability.
Look at that shiny. It's so beautiful. I think it's a good spec. Anyway.
I really hope you get to play it when we record the gameplay videos.
Me too. I'd like to see, do you know what deck I'm building based on that one card? It would be very tough. But if you get it, I'll be impressed.
Yeah. Finally, one more quick announcement. Magic the Amateuring has a new YouTube channel where they're going to post vlogs, their gameplay videos, and their podcasts because they've been doing video podcasts even longer than we have. So make sure you guys go subscribe to them right now. The link is in the show notes. It's on YouTube or on collected.company. You can find them there. And please go support these gals. They are awesome. They're hilarious. If you haven't seen their musical episode, I was busting up laughing over that too.
It's so good. The 200th episode is the one with all the musicals, and it's amazing. Go to Magic the Amateuring on YouTube. You can just type it in the search, and you'll find it easy.
Yeah, Megan and Maria.
Love those girls.
Yeah. All right, finally, on to our main topic, 10 minutes into the show. Someone's going to post a comment and be like, oh, gosh, they just ramble on for 9 minutes. And then they started talking about this. How controversial was that? Well, hey, that's the main topic. It's controversial conversations. Actually, I like how the full title is Combos, Concessions, and Controversies. CCC.
CCC.
See, I was just in Spain. There we go. Yes.
All right. So one of the great things about our show is that we get a ton of correspondence with Commander players from all over, because all our listeners are always emailing us, and we really like it, and we really like to, we answer basically every email that comes in. The only ones that we can't reply to are the deck lists. We get tons of deck lists, and we just don't have time to go through all of those. But we get a ton of, like, I sort of call them Dear Abby, which are just like people in situations in their play groups or things they've seen and wondering how they might deal with it. And we kind of become an advice column sometimes. And this is great. We love it. Anytime you have an issue, you should definitely email us about it, because one of the things that it does is it gives us ideas for things to talk about on the show. Yeah, definitely. And this is going to be an interesting one, because this is kind of a consistent question that we get from people, which is not a specific one, but more, this is a situation that has come up. It seems like a controversial, or there's some controversy around it. People have argued about it, or we just don't know what the correct response is. We're wondering what you guys think about it. So we're going to talk about a few of those today and share some of those conversations and the people that sent in the questions. So shall we begin? Sure. The first one is called Dealing with Combo. 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 So I said it just different than you. Yeah. Yours sounded more like how it sounds in the games. This came from a listener called Zach, and this is the exact wording of the email. We paraphrase it for brevity. But the question essentially is, my local playgroup has recently changed from traditional control and creature-based strategies to all-out combo game plans. Basically, everyone is going infinite all the time, even me, just to keep up, often with force of will backup. How do I keep 3, at least, other players in check while trying to win myself? The only card that has yielded any success is Sadistic Sacrament. That will take out one player out of the game, only to lose to someone else's combo. That's a bummer, to lose to combo constantly. Sadistic Sacrament is this crazy black card from Zendikar. It's a sorcery with a kicker of 7, and you can search a player's library for up to 3 cards, exile them, and then that player shuffles their library. And if you kick the card, you search their library for 15 cards, so for 10 mana total, exile them, and then the player shuffles their library. Basically to go in there and Jesters cap their cards out of their library so that they can't combo off with them. Yeah, so if they're playing Kiki Jiki, you go get Zealous Conscripts and a few other things that are going to, know, if they ever get those cards, they're going to just win. You might get, like, what's the one that works with Niv Mizzet? Ophidian Eye. Yeah, Ophidian Eye. Stuff like that. And the main question is how can I deal with a combo-heavy meta? It's starting to take the joy out of EDH for me, as the decks seem too consistent and the games tend to play out almost always the same. This is definitely one we get a lot in some variation, right? Which is that my play group and my meta is starting to evolve towards, like, really competitive, highly tuned combo decks. And it makes it feel like sometimes like it's kind of a coin flip. There's less interaction in those type of games sometimes. And some groups like that, and we're not saying, hey, don't like it. We're just saying if you can be on this downward slope where you see it and you're, like, falling off the edge of that cliff towards combo, and it's just hard to figure out how to stop it because, because they're comboing off. Yeah, they're comboing off. How are you? This guy even says, Zach even says, like, I'm doing it myself just to keep up. And it feels like, how do I stop it? It's just snowballing on me. And so we're going to maybe come up with some ways that you might be able to, like, reverse what's happening or change your meta, evolve past the combo and out of it. The first point, which is a really good one that you bring up, Josh, is just talk to the group. And this is something that I think doesn't happen a lot in games, because it's like, hey, who brought what decks to the table? And people just start playing it instead of, like, having a conversation about the meta. We have a whole episode about the meta, by the way, and it's basically what is the sort of style and formula of your play group. What is everyone doing? In this case, for Zach's case, it's all combo. So if everyone else is sort of feeling the same way you did, and it's like, hey, like, I went into it because Zach went into it, and Zach went into it because George went into it, and George went into it so Megan went into it. Like, then it's like, hey, maybe everyone else is kind of feeling that maybe we shouldn't have this combo meta. Maybe we should put some of the restrictions on decks. Maybe, one night out of the month, no one plays a combo deck. Everyone plays a Voltron deck, or everyone just plays a different kind of deck, or maybe it's something else that you can talk to. You have a house rule, maybe no infinite X, no do this or do that. Yeah, we know Phil DeLuca and Nate and Sean from the Commander and podcast, they have sort of a house rule that says that infinite combos can't happen. They only allow the same loop to repeat up to 5 times, and then you're done. So you can't, if you Kiki-Jiki Zealous Conscripts, which would normally make infinite creatures, it only makes 5 creatures. And that kind of thing. So that might be something that you can look at or talk about with your group. I also think it's just always good as a first step to talk about issues rather than passively aggressively do stuff or say stuff or just get mad and foster a lot of resentment. And also, and this is a possibility too, you want to make sure that you're on the same page with your playgroup. Maybe you've got a playgroup with 5 or 6 people and everybody else is like, no, this is awesome. This is the best.
This is my favorite thing ever.
Yeah. Who are you to tell them that? You know, if they're like, yeah, I've been feeling that too, then you can come to some sort of, on the same page and come up with a solution. But you don't want to be forcing the rest of your playgroup out of something they enjoy.
Yeah, and in general, talking to everyone else will get you on page on a lot of different things. In fact, all the other things we talk about in this episode may be resolved by just being on the same page as everyone else.
Yep. So we always are an advocate of acting like an adult, coming out and talking it out, and not in an accusatory manner, just being like, hey guys, I just want to talk about something. And I'm not saying that it's anybody's fault or anything like that. It's just, this is the way I've been feeling. And I'm wondering if you guys feel the same way and maybe what we can do to maybe address that. And it's not like you're doing this and you're doing that and you started it and blah, blah, blah. That doesn't do anybody any good. Just come out like, hey, here's the thing that's happening. Here's the way I feel about it. It's not about blame. It's just about, are you guys feeling the same way? And if so, maybe let's talk about some ways that we might be able to start addressing it. Yeah,
the more you point fingers, the more people will not. Yeah, they'll go into their shell, they'll start deflecting, they'll blame it on someone else. You see this happen all the time. Just try to avoid doing that. It's never going to help you reach an accord with anyone else if you just go like, yes, it's your fault. It's like, well, you did it too. It's like, oh boy, now this argument is never going to resolve.
Yeah, you're never going to get anywhere. It's just not going to happen. Having said all that, Magic's a card game. So one of the great things is there are often cards that can help you in this situation. Now, Zach talks about Sadistic Sacrament, which I think is a good card against combo. There's a lot of cards that are good against combo. And so we're going to go through some here because I do think it's possible, in the same way that your meta started to go towards this because of the way that the decks are being built and the cards are being played, you might be able to pull out of it by creating decks and playing in a way that sort of forces people to adjust to you and sort of like, well, combo's not as effective, so I got to go towards something else. So there's a few categories of cards we've written down here. The first is players can't search libraries. So there are a bunch of cards in the history of Magic that sort of stop tutoring, basically. They also sort of, as a side effect, stop fetch lands and things like that sometimes.
That's brutal. I've had this first card play against me when I tried to fetch something.
Yeah, this is, you can actually play in response to somebody fetching or tutoring, which is also good. So go ahead.
Aven Mind Sensor. It's a card from Future Sight. 2 and a white for a 2/1 flash flyer. Wizards loves printing a 2 and a white for a 2/1 flash flyer.
It's the hate bear, but it's the flying version.
Yeah. It's similar to like Hushwing Griffin stuff too. But Aven Mind Sensor says if an opponent would search a library, that player searches the top 4 cards of that library instead. So if you crack a fetch land, you flash this in, they can only look at the top 4 cards to hope they can find a land they can fetch. If they demonic tutor, they can only take a card from the top 4 cards. So it doesn't shut down tutoring entirely. It just makes it way less effective.
Yeah, it doesn't make it like they lose a card from the tutoring. It just makes it like they don't get something awesome.
Yeah, unless they're like doing an enchantment based.
A fetch land, it can totally be like you get nothing though.
Yeah.
If there's just not a land that they can get in the top 4, sorry. This is a really good card against combo heavy decks. Usually combo heavy decks rely on getting certain pieces, and the way that they can sort of consistently get those pieces is generally through tutoring. So a card like Aven Mind Sensor, because once it's out, it just stops all tutoring except for the top 4 cards of your library.
Yeah.
This is another really good one.
Stranglehold, 3 and a red for an enchantment, originally printed in Commander, so it was meant for this format. Your opponents can't search libraries. If an opponent would begin an extra turn, that player skips that turn instead. So obviously very good against like Narset decks that want to take infinite turns.
This is a total anti-combo card, right?
Yeah.
Because, a lot of combos want to take unlimited turns, and a lot of them want to search libraries. Mindlock Orb is another card that stops the searching of libraries, just says players can't search libraries. It's a blue artifact? Yeah.
Yeah, 3 in the blue for an artifact. So this is an effect that's available in white, blue, and red. So pretty much every color that it's 3 out of 5. I'm sure there are other effects as well that do similar things, but yeah, very, very powerful, obviously. Next category would be hate bears. So we're not talking about angry bears that don't like things. We're talking about cards that do not let your opponents cast spells or additional spells or spells of a certain CMC. And the first one is one that's in my Breya deck, Aethersworn Canonist. 1 in the white for a 2/2. So this person is a bear, actually. Each player who has cast a non-artifact spell this turn can't cast additional non-artifact spells.
So she hates, as a hate bear, you casting a lot of spells in a turn.
Well, artifacts are A-okay.
Non-artifacts,
but,
yeah. This is, again, this works really well against combo because often combo wants to string together a sequence of specific spells. They want to cast this, then this in the same turn, then go off. And Aethersworn Canonist says, I'm sorry, you can only cast one spell. This is a card we talk about a lot. Gaddock Teague, who is another hate bear. A green and a white for a 2/2. Kithkin Advisor, legendary creature. Non-creature spells with converted mana cost 4 or greater can't be played. Sorry, can't be cast. And then non-creature spells with X in their mana cost can't be cast. So it just turns off a whole ton of non-creature spells. A lot of times, not all the time, but combo heavy decks often rely on like a sorcery or an instant somewhere in there, and that sort of turns off the more expensive, the 4 or more. Yeah. Oh, this is a good one too.
Oh, yeah. This is a card I think should just see more play in general.
For sure.
It's Spellskite. It's a 2-mana artifact creature horror, 0/4, and you can pay a Phyrexian mana or 1 blue mana to change a target of a target spell or ability to Spellskite. So this is some people play as protection for their commander. You play this out, they can't target your commander first without having to kill the Spellskite. You can just also steal spells that people cast on their own things. If you're Craig and you cast a
If they go to cast that Ophidian Eye on Niv Mizzet to go off, sorry, my Spellskite now has the Ophidian Eye.
And you can do it for 2 life at any time. So that means you can tap out for it. It only costs 2 mana to play the Spellskite as well. This card is just very powerful.
One of the reasons hate bears are really good against combo is because they come out early. So they're sitting, you play them on turn 2, and then so they're just there when the combo starts to happen and they can help stop it. Spellskite also works against Kiki Jiki infinite combos because you force the Kiki Jiki to copy the Spellskite, which then it's...
Or the Zealous Conscripts to copy the Spellskite.
Yeah, so then it's just not... they can't go off, right? They can't untap Kiki and continue to do it. So the next category is called You Can't Play That.
Nope.
You can't play that. Can't play that. Wow. That's like stats. We're in the can't play that segment.
Yeah, can't play that. Today we could not play Magic because we recorded the podcast. Can't play that.
True dat.
Today Josh played Nevermore on me
did
and
not.
named Kiki Jiki. Nevermore, 1 white for an enchantment. As Nevermore enters the battlefield, name a non-land card. The named card can't be cast. So people will play Nevermore and stuff like this and name a commander. People will play it and name the combo piece. Some people will also play it and play like a catch-all, like counterspell.
Yep. Force of will.
Force of will, yeah.
Yep. It just stops a card before it's ever come out. You're just like, boom. It works really well in combo heavy metas because usually there's a specific card, and a lot of times it's their commander. So if you know they're going to go infinite with Kiki Jiki, play Nevermore naming Kiki Jiki, and they're in the mono red. So they have like Chaos Warp, maybe like 1 or 2 other ways to get rid of a Nevermore. You're much safer from that combo. And this and Meddling Mage is the creature version. The hate bear version of this card does basically the same thing. Normally, these cards feel a little bit mean, but if you're in a combo-heavy meta, they're actually, I think, fine. They're justified because those people are trying to do something degenerate, and so you doing something like this to stop it, I think, is totally fine.
Yeah, and also, if you guys have noticed, we've named enchantments, artifacts, and creatures so far. These are all different kinds of cards. They're hard to remove, and also, like, even if it means stopping a combo from happening for 1 turn because they have to spend some mana to remove something, you put them at a disadvantage, and it also slows them down, which sometimes is all you need to stop someone from comboing off and killing you a turn earlier or whatever.
The next category that can help to stop combo is called Chaos. Oh, wait.
Get out of there.
That was a good one.
Oh, it almost landed back on the table.
So Chaos are effects that, and we've talked about some of these cards before, that sort of make it so when you play a card, you don't actually know the outcome. It's not going to do what it's supposed to do. So Hive Mind is the first one.
Yeah, this card. 5 in the blue for an enchantment. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, each other player copies that spell. Each of those players may choose new targets for his or her copy. This is obviously bad with Demonic Tutor because everyone's like, hey!
I get my own Demonic Tutor.
Yeah, but this also just stops people from playing a lot of stuff as well until they can find the best chance to do it, you know? And Hive Mind's cool because if they remove your enchantment with it, maybe they can remove 4 other enchantments and, you know, you stop 4 other people's combos at the same time.
It works really well against counterspells too. So if they've got Force of Will backup, well, if they go to counterspell your spell that's stopping their combo, you get a Force of Will to counter their Force of Will, and everybody else does too. And of course, they're going to not want that person to combo off and win, so they can point all their Force of Wills at their Force of Will, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, this makes game states very confusing.
Yeah, it definitely makes it confusing, and it makes it hard, but it will sort of hurt combo. The other one, and we've talked about this card actually quite a bit recently. It was featured heavily in our gameplay video, the out-of-the-box video.
Oh, yeah.
And we talked about it, I think, with Saskia. It's Possibility Storm. Okay, I'm not going to read the whole thing. Here's what it does. It's 3 red, red. Every time you play any type of spell, you don't get the spell you played. You actually flip cards from the top of your deck until you find a card that's like it. So if you play a creature, you flip cards until you get a creature, and then you get that creature that you flipped. If it's an instant, you do the same thing, but you get the instant that you flipped. The outcome of this is that anytime you play anything, you don't know what's going to happen exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
You really don't know what's going to happen, and everyone is affected by it. So this just hoses a lot of strategies where people are like, I need to line up these 4 spells for this to happen. It's like, well, good luck. They're all going to find something else.
None of the stuff that you're going to cast is going to do that. It's if you cast Zealous Conscripts with your Kiki-Jiki out, you won't get Zealous Conscripts. You'll get the next creature off the top of your deck. The next category is Split Second. So this is a very, very powerful thing, and the more competitive decks will play Split Second more than sort of the casual decks. And I think that the casual players could learn to play more Split Second cards. These cards are very good in the situation we're talking about where like something's going to happen, I have to stop it. So I need to play a card that guaranteed stops it, and Split Second cards will do that.
Yeah, Split Second, 1 black for an instant with Split Second, and it says as long as this spell is on the stack, so you cast it, it goes onto the stack, players can't cast spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities, which means you play the spell, no one can counter it, no one can play another spell in response to it. This spell needs to resolve. So it guaranteed is going to go through. It's very hard to stop something with Split Second. And Sudden Spoiling says, until end of turn, creatures target player controls lose all abilities and have base power toughness 0-2.
So you can stop any sort of like Kiki-Jiki combos, Niv-Mizzet combos, those type of things. You're only stopping it for a turn. But usually that when they decide to go off, that's the turn. If you can get through that, then all of a sudden everybody else has a chance to remove the Niv-Mizzet, board wipe, do all the stuff that's going to actually get rid of it. But you just have to stop it in that moment. So Sudden Spoiling works against basically every creature-based combo strategy because, again, it's Split Second. So Sudden Spoiling, boom, turns into an 0-2 with no abilities, turns off all those abilities they're like untapping for infinite times or blah, blah, blah.
You can even let them make infinite tokens with Kiki-Jiki and then do Split Second.
Right when they attack? True,
Yeah.
true.
Corrosive Grip is another one. Split Second, 2 and a green for an instant. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. This is, I think, one of the best cards in Commander.
One of the best combo stoppers that there is because so many combos include at least one enchantment or artifact. Yeah, and again, Split Second. So you play it, it's going to happen.
Yeah, not to mention this is a card that just should go in your deck anyway because you're always going to have an artifact or enchantment you need to get rid of.
And the last sort of category we're going to talk about for combo stoppers are an entire class of cards, but I like Blind Obedience, maybe the best of them, but there are other ones in other colors. It's these cards that say your opponent's creatures and sometimes other things enter the battlefield tapped. So Blind Obedience is 1 and a white for an enchantment. It has Extort. I'm not going to read Extort because it doesn't matter here. And it says artifacts and creatures your opponent's control enter the battlefield tapped. So again, if you're worried about combos like Kiki-Jiki, Zealous Conscripts or Pestermine or whatever, this stops that kind of thing because all the copies, even if they make infinite amount, they come into play tapped.
Yeah,
so they can't attack that turn. Also like Earthcraft, Squirrel's Nest type stuff, you can stop those kind of things because they all come into play tapped. Those types of combos. It doesn't stop every combo. It has to be sort of creature-centric.
The last category of how to stop combos is just build a faster deck than they can combo off or use politics. A dedicated aggro strategy, something like INFECT, that we'll talk about later in the show as well, can usually take someone out of the game before they're able to combo off and kill you with their Hermit Druid or whatever. And politics works very well. You look at someone and say, like, I know their combo, I know what they're about to do. Can anyone else do anything about it? Or, like, we need 2 people to team up because we know they have Force of Will backup, etc.
Yeah, I think that playing INFECT or very fast decks in aggro, they are also political because those decks are unlikely to win the game overall. But what they are likely to do is send a message. So if there's like a certain player in your meta that plays very combo heavy, and you play your infect deck and point at that person every time, and every time they're like, why are you, and you're, because you go infinite, man.
Yeah.
And this is the only way I can beat it. And so they're getting the message. I am going to play a deck that's going to be faster than your combo, and I'm doing it because you combo. If you stop doing that, then I'll stop doing it, and you can sort of bring them to the negotiating table. This is a tactic that I'd like to use as a little more passive-aggressive, but if the sort of discussion with your playgroup doesn't work, or maybe there's just one player that's sort of an issue, which we hear about a lot. There's two things that happen. Either the whole playgroup starts to lean in that direction, or else it's just one person that's sort of like starting to, play degenerately, and everybody else doesn't really like it, but they don't know how to deal with it. Changing your meta sort of forcefully in this way, like consciously saying, okay, my meta is like this, and I want to sort of bend it this way, it requires you to sort of say to yourself, okay, I'm willing to not win for maybe a few play sessions here, because I have to sort of make a stance, make it very clear, and just say, like, I'm willing to do this until you change.
You might make yourself the villain in some cases as well. But hey, it's kind of a fun experiment to see if you can do it.
You definitely can. I've definitely done things like that in playgroups for many different games, which is to sort of bring them out of what I would consider a nosedive towards something bad. But you have to be willing to sacrifice, and a lot of times it's doing something like that. Playing Infect, pointing at that player, saying, listen, you're playing infinite combos. This is how I can beat them. Neither of us is going to win.
Yeah.
And when you stop playing them, then both of us will have a chance to win again. So the ball's in your court.
Yeah, and I would say like what Zach did here was he made a combo deck to play along with everyone else. This is definitely taking the other course, which is here's how I'm going to actively change the meta by being the first person to change it.
All right, so there's some strategies. Again, there's probably many more. The best one, 100%, just talk.
Talk, yeah.
Yep, just talk.
It may be tough, but it's way more worth it than being like, I'm going to do this and make sure no one has fun anymore.
For sure. Okay, so on to the next topic. So remember, it was combos, concessions, and controversy.
Controversy.
So this is the concessions portion, and we don't mean going to buy popcorn. It's not the concession stand. We mean conceding.
Conceding.
When is it okay to concede? This was from Gabriel Robinson, I believe. Gabriel, at least a few times, has come up with some good questions, and we've had discussions over email with Gabriel. He's got a knack for sort of putting his finger on these hot button issues or these interesting topics. So thank you, Gabriel. Again, this is not the exact wording. We've shortened it. But he says, I have a question regarding conceding in multiplayer EDH. There are times when it's unclear if giving up is a legitimate strategy or poor sportsmanship. For example, if someone is swinging for lethal with a team of lifelinkers, you could concede to deny them the life gain. Or if someone has infinite mana and is bouncing everyone's permanents with capsize, you could concede in response to fizzle or counter the spell and let everybody else have a chance to win. How do you feel about conceding like this?
Oof. That I didn't think about either of those situations when the idea of like when should you concede came up, because usually it's like, all right, I can't win anymore. I'm not having fun. I'm conceding. But conceding to fizzle a spell to essentially give any deck the ability to counter one spell per game.
I mean, at the cost of losing.
At the cost of losing, yeah. Or it's stopping someone from life gain. I'm personally okay with it to a certain degree. I think if you make it a point that you're always doing this kind of thing to stop someone, and you're doing it out of spite, or you're doing it out of anger, or like kind of destroying the playgroup as a result, then it's not a healthy thing to do. But if you're just doing it because it's like, ooh, he's about to gain 1,000 life or whatever, or this capsize buyback thing is broken and no one else is gonna have any fun if he does it, sure, why not?
Yeah, I'm sort of against it. I feel like it's outside the game. I feel like if you have gotten your board to the position where you're swinging with that 1,000 lifelinkers, then you've done that through the game, and you deserve to get the 1,000 life. And it's sort of using a loophole in the system of multiplayer, because in one-on-one, you conceding is the outcome you want anyway, because I want to win. But in multiplayer, I have to defeat 2 more people, and so it's sort of abusing the multiplayer system. I've heard people with really strong stances where they're like, if somebody does that, they're never invited back to play with us again. I wouldn't go that far, but I'm with you for sure. If somebody's doing it all the time, kind of it's a dirty move. I do think it strays into poor sportsmanship. It feels not part of the game to concede to deny your opponents an advantage that they gain through the game. And
Yeah, even if the way they did it was unfair to you, like they had infinite mana, so then they were able to do this. It's interesting. I feel like the capsized buyback situation, if they're going to do it to every single permanent on the board, then I would totally concede, because I'm like, man, that's just like, you already won. But at the same time, maybe
that's
they
how they're
already
icing
won.
the win.
Yeah, they're just icing on the cake. I don't know. It's really interesting. I'm actually right in the middle on this. I would have to be put in situations where this is actually relevant, because again, I didn't think of either of these sort of situations when the question was first posed.
Definitely, I've been in games, and I don't like conceding in general, because in multiplayer it affects things in a weird way. Like sometimes somebody's like attacking you, and they're going to attack you again this turn, and if you concede, they can begin the attacks on the other players a turn early, basically. So you're basically each other, like let's say, I don't know, somebody's got an Ulamog out, and nobody's got a way to stop it, and it's slowly killing you, and this is going to be the turn where it does kill you, and then it's going to turn on to Jimmy. And if I concede now, it turns to Jimmy one turn early.
Yeah, and let's say I've been like antagonizing you the whole game with other stuff. So it's like, sure, yeah, I want him to turn it on that player, because, you know, then you have this whole another level.
But it's using like an outside of the game mechanic to sort of be spiteful against somebody. Or even if it's not spiteful, usually I'm of the position that like I will make the person go through it as if I don't have the ability to concede, because I don't want to use concession as like a strategy.
Yeah, I think as a strategy it can be really tough, because in general, when you're playing a game of one-on-one and you concede, it's because you want to have like more time on the clock for the next round, or you're like, oh, I'm gonna have a tough sideboard, so I want a little more time to think about this. I'm gonna concede now because I know that my deck has no more outs. That's sort of like how the control deck in Modern works right now with Lantern Control. Like after a while, you just don't have a way to win when the Lantern Control deck is fully set up. So you concede because you want to be able to play out the rest of your rounds.
And again, in one-on-one, conceding doesn't give an advantage to anybody else. There's no advantage to conceding. You lose, and then in the game, and then it's over.
Yeah.
There's not like more Magic to be played. But in multiplayer, I don't love conceding in general. I've definitely had times where like somebody does something like, I don't know, Armageddon's, and they have an Ulamog out or something. And, and I'm like, you know what? It's not that bad. I have something in my hand. I have a Path to Exile, and I can get rid of the Ulamog. Yes, they're still going to have 10 mana, but there's 4 of us. Somebody might claw back into it before he kills the rest and then be able to get him. And a lot of times people are like, nah, just concede. And it's like, well, I only have a chance to call back into this game if everybody stays.
Yeah.
And
in fact, I've seen the best concessions are just when everyone is like simultaneously like, all right, you got the game. Like you just MLD'd with an Ulamog or whatever out. We all concede.
And when everybody agrees, then I'm totally with it. But if
then it's like a 1v1 format essentially.
Yeah, but if one person's going like, wait a minute, guys, I have a Path to Exile and a Plains. So let's just see where this goes. We might be able to claw our way back into it. Then in that case, I wouldn't concede. But I have seen a lot of players like, nah, I'm still conceding. And then it's like, crap, you're kind of making us all concede when you do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, interesting question. We'd be interested to see in the comments and on Twitter and everything else how you guys feel about this issue.
Yeah, I'd love to see other situations specifically outside of the one that the two that Gabriel posed.
I mean, you could think of just tons of them where conceding would actually be, you know, you could use it as quote unquote strategy. You could use it to harm somebody, and I don't like using conceding in a way that makes it like a weapon.
Yeah, it feels more spiteful than. Even like though it is strategic, it feels spiteful. Like you don't get to have this, and I get to choose from this thing outside the game that you can't control.
All right. So the final thing we're going to talk about has to do with our gameplay video, Game Nights, Episode 1. So if you didn't watch it, well, first of all, go watch it because you're crazy. It did turn out great, and we're really proud of how it turned out. So if you haven't had a chance to watch Game Nights yet, you should go check it out. It's our take on the gameplay format. So traditionally, watching Magic being played, I think there's a lot of pitfalls and a lot of problems with it. And anybody that's tried to watch, you know, a lot of different takes on gameplay knows what the problems are. And we tried to address a lot of those problems, which are board complexity and what's going on and explaining things. And we think we came up with a pretty interesting way to do it, which is we sort of do it in a reality TV show style. So we're playing the game, but as the game's going, we cut away to interviews with each of the players, like Jimmy, myself, our friend Craig, and they're explaining things like, well, I have this in my hand, and I was thinking this, and this is why I made this decision. And we keep track of the boards, and we have the graphics so the cards sort of fly up, and you get good looks at them, and you can tell what each card is and what it does. So anyway, go watch the gameplay video. But what happened in it was that Craig brought 2 INFECT decks. Now, Infect is a super polarizing mechanic.
Hell of a way to kick off a brand new show, by the way, Craig.
I like it. He brought controversy, which is one of the great ways to get publicity.
Absolutely.
Craig, a born marketer. So he brought a Saskia Infect deck and an Atraxa Infect deck. So we played them in the gameplay video, and there was a lot of response on both sides of the fence, and a lot of people have just such a super negative, immediate reaction to Infect. I found it fascinating. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I you know, it's something that obviously was expected. I didn't expect people to be maybe that vocal about it. But then again, you know, Infect is a very controversial thing because if you guys don't know, Infect is it's a gameplay mechanic where if you get 10 poison counters, which certain cards have Infect or will give you poison counters, or you get proliferated, you immediately lose the game. It's like you got poisoned to death, and it's an alternative win con to dealing someone 40 damage in life. And
it's sort of like commander damage almost. It's an
very similar.
alternate amount of damage you have to do it with an alternate source.
It's funny,
But
I haven't lost to commander damage in so long.
Yeah, I've certainly lost to Infect recently. Yeah, so it's the one of the big issues is that in EDH and Commander, what we do, we bumped our life total to twice what it starts at normally, and Commander damage is 21 damage. But Infect did not change. 10 poison counters still kills you in Commander. It's not more. It's not 15. It's not 20. It's not doubled like everything else. And so there's this feeling that it's not correctly balanced for Commander.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, Infect is stupid, it's lame, it should be 20 points. We banned Infect in our play group because it was so toxic, etc. Couple of small notes before we talk about this more. Infect won 0 of the games it played. It did knock out a couple of people. I know that makes a difference to other people. And it also has almost never won any games. And I played with Craig the most out of anybody in my entire life in Commander, and he loves Infect. He plays a lot of Infect decks because it's also very cheap and affordable to build an Infect deck. And the number of times he's won in multiplayer games is definitely less than the fingers on one hand. It may be like once or twice. And this is over like 3-4 years of playing Commander with someone.
I've played with Craig, not as much as you, but hundreds of games. Probably not all of them were Infect, but many games with Infect. I have literally never seen a pure Infect deck win. Now, I've seen Triumph of the Horde win a game. I've seen Blightsteel Colossus win a game, but those aren't Infect decks. That's just like Craterhoof Behemoth, you know? It's just Insurrection. It's a card that like wins the game, but as far as like a deck like we saw where he's going to play like a 2-drop with Infect and then put Larger Than Life on it and then try and Saskia the other person with Infect on turn 4 or 5, those decks, they don't win.
So is Infect evil, Josh? Is it as bad as the naysayers are saying it is?
No, and of course we've been heavily inoculated to Infect because we've played against it so much. I think here's something I would watch out for big time from people, and I really want to curtail this kind of talk, which is like people that play Infect are jerks.
Yeah, that and like playing with. I saw a couple of comments recently, like playing with Craig must suck.
You know what? It's completely the opposite. I think most of you. I'm just going to say this, like 90% of people that are saying that, they've never played against it. Or maybe they played against it one time. We've played against it all the time, and I will tell you, it's awesome, actually. It does many great things for your game. Your games are way faster. Your games don't take 2 hours. They just don't. Infect won't allow it. Your games are super exciting.
Yeah, it puts a real timer on you or your other players, and the politics with Infect too they're amped up a huge notch because the person that gets targeted first is in the hot seat all of a sudden.
It also definitely like makes you less worried or less hurt when you lose or get knocked out. It's a thing that happens. It makes it sort of less of a big deal. We hear a lot of complaints. Oh, this person knocked me out. Like to us, that's just a game because games aren't long and it happens all the time. And Craig he's the junkyard dog. He might just bite you and not let go. That game, big deal.
I mean, and here's the thing. Hermit Druid can be played on turn 2 as well, and some decks go infinite by turn 3 in Commander, and you can die to Infect on turn 3 as well. Like, this is a format where degeneracy happens quite often all over the board, and to say that one form is that much worse and just the awfulest thing in the world when, you know, I put an infinite combo in my deck, am I as bad as the Infect player all of a sudden because it's also degenerate and can win in a way that seems unfair? I don't think so.
I think combo is much more degenerate than Infect. Infect is much more fair. In fact, it causes you another side benefit is it really does cause you to improve your deck building. You cannot have a deck that doesn't do anything until turn 4. You're going to die to the Infect player if you do that. You have to have, some stuff to do early. You have to be able to interact with your opponent's deck. You can't play super heavy combo in our meta. You can have some combos in your deck, but you can't be dedicated to it because those decks generally don't do much to affect what the other player's game plans are, and the Infect deck will just kill you then.
Yeah, and one of our good friends that plays with us, Josh Kim, tweeted at us with a really great point, which is Infect keeps decks honest. You know, because there are some times where your meta can go straight combo and everyone is turn 1 pass, turn 2 pass, turn 3 pass, turn 4 pass, turn 5 combo out, right?
Yep.
And everyone does it at the same time. Infect is one of those ways that says, like, no, you know what? Your deck needs to be able to handle combat. Your deck needs to be able to handle someone attacking you with a creature because that is like the foundation of Magic the Gathering, you know, and that's what Infect does. Not to mention the strategy itself is incredibly linear. It's not like they're going to come out of left field with this crazy combo that gets around your activated abilities or counter something, you know, crazy. They have to swing at you for the most part to kill you.
Yep. I'm not saying like, hey, everybody play Infect all the time. I'm saying like their Infect itself is actually kind of awesome. I used to think maybe we should change the amount of poison counters. Playing with Craig Moore has taught me like it's already almost impossible for the Infect deck to win. So why make it harder? It makes the game super fun. There's the other argument I heard a lot was like, well, sure, but the Infect player takes somebody out and then they have to sit there for an hour while everybody else plays, and that sucks. Guess what? That almost never happens because the Infect deck wins fast or it dies fast. So at the very least, you've got the Infect player who's going to have died right after you, and you can play like a one-on-one game while the other people are playing. Also, that's 2 people that are out of the game really fast.
Game goes much faster when there's only 2 people.
Now it's down to 1v1 or maybe, you know, a 3-player game, and it's not probably going to continue for an hour.
Yeah.
And many games, the player stabilizes the Infect deck, can't do anything after turn 8 or 9. And, you know, I'd say that's the vast majority of the games. Anyway, this is like a weird, I never thought I'd be doing this, but give Infect a chance. It's not as bad as you think. And definitely don't sort of ascribe certain personalities to people that do play things. Don't call people jerks because they play a certain strategy. That's to me, that's going to lead you down a really bad path. It's just not. It's not cool to be like people who play Infect are jerks and to make blanket statements like that.
A knee-jerk blanket statement is just that doesn't look well on you as a person as well. Also, like, what if let's say instead of all my creatures having Infect, all my creatures have lifelink? Are you going to be calling me a jerk because now I'm just outgaining everyone in life and you can't kill me because I have 80 life now? It's like there is a comparable thing for Infect. I think a lot of the flack actually comes from the fact that the word Infect and poison kind of have a negative connotation to it already. And a lot of people don't, and some people like Phil DeLuca are very anti-Phyrexian for whatever reason. So I think that is an easy way to have your brain slip into the trap of like, I'm just going to be angry and not like someone based on a choice they made when I'm making choices all the time that other people may disagree with, but that doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. So
there's no card or a combination of cards somebody can play in a game of EDH or Commander or any kind of Magic that makes them as a person a jerk.
Yeah. The way that they communicate with you, the way that they agree to things, the way that they have conversations with you, those are all things in real life that happens. But this is a card game. We're
supposed to play cards. It's just like would a certain move in chess be only made by a jerk? No. Yeah. It's just, yeah. All right. So let's dial it down a notch, everybody. But, I mean, I understand. It is shocking and scary. And some people are like, that doesn't look like fun. But you know what? It's kind of fun.
It's like going on a roller coaster for the first time. You're like, oh my gosh, I did not expect this.
I mean, you pay a lot of money for simulated excitement that like increases your pulse and makes you get excited and you're sort of sweating. And, you know, you go to theme parks and ride, you know, roller coasters, or, you know, you go to the craps table, or some people jump out of airplanes to get that kind of it's in a similar vein. Like, man, when somebody's got Infect and they are pointed at you and you're like, I have got to get myself out of this situation, that's very exciting, and it makes for fun games.
Even when someone has Voltron decks or someone has a combo deck, you're like, oh, it could end at any time. Oh gosh, prepare, get ready. Yeah. So, hey.
All right. To the listeners, what are some controversial topics or situations you think we should tackle next time? So we're looking for your emails, your tweets, your comments, things that are in the same vein of what we just talked about that maybe you've come into contact with or heard about, and you're wondering, you know, what our thoughts are on that kind of stuff and how you might handle things.
Or you want us to know what your thoughts are. So make sure you guys let us know. And Patreon members, there's a special form for you at a certain level if you guys want to submit extra lengthy questions to the show. So you guys make sure you check that out as well. If you want to get in direct contact with us, by the way, there is a special Patreon-only email. You get priority responses.
Something else you should check out is cardkingdom.com/commandzone.
Command Zone.
Command Zone.
Woo!
That is our sponsor for the show. We talk about them every episode. You guys know they ship faster than anybody. This is the time of the year when you need fast shipping. You should definitely check them out. Oh, something I should say. I'm trying to figure out how to word it because they just came out with this thing with Prof. So, all right.
Who's also sponsored by
Yeah, but it's awesome. So I'm just going to say it, and here's how I think you should handle it. So if you go to cardkingdom.com/TCC, it has all the products that the professor has reviewed over the years that got good, like A's and A minuses. They got like really good grades, and it just lists them, and it makes it really easy to find like the awesome products he's talked about. And then what you do is when you order that stuff, you just put in the little comment area that Command Zone brought you there. And that'll basically do the same thing, except for that you'll have access to that cool page where you see all the awesome stuff from Prof. Because, man, if Prof tells you that one of the items is an A, it's a freaking A.
It's an A, yeah.
Yeah, that guy is like... seriously, I won't actually buy anything unless he's reviewed it like well.
Yeah, his grading system is as good as the way they grade their cards, which is if it's near mint, that card is near mint, and they said so. And yeah, there are a few of us now that are sponsored by Card Kingdom. Obviously, we've had this question pop up. If you just go there, just write in the comments like, hey, Card Kingdom brought me here, or like, hey, the MTA girls brought me here, or hey, all of them brought me here. You know, this by the way, helps all of us because they're like, sweet. All of these people and all the people that watch these shows, listen to these shows, they listen to each other's shows. They're hearing about Card Kingdom more than any other retailer, and that makes us happy. That makes them happy. It's good times all around.
All right, time for the end step where we talk about something cool outside the world of Magic. Oh, crap.
Tapas.
Tapas.
Tapas is a form of small plate food that originated in Spain. And it's sort of like a hip thing, right? They're like, you can have a tapas restaurant for Spanish food, you can have a tapas restaurant for Japanese food. You know, the idea is just instead of ordering one big plate for yourself, like the American standard, or a lot of big things for the middle of the group for everyone to share with, you're ordering lots of small plates, and you're enjoying the experience of dining over a period of time and selecting and sampling from a lot of different things while sharing with a group. As a result, this sometimes means that you don't get as much of one thing as the other, but it's something I experienced a lot more of in Spain, in Barcelona, when I was there last week. And it's, I personally am not the hugest tapas fan, but I understand why it's great because you get to sit around with people and like everyone gets to talk about the food that they're eating at the same time with each other. Like, oh, I really like that one. It's like, I don't like that one as much. And it makes for a much more social dining experience.
I love tapas because you get to try a lot of things. I'm one of those people that go to a restaurant and there's like, I want to try these 7 things. And in American style dining, like you said, well, it's going to be way too much food. I can only try one thing and maybe an appetizer.
Yeah.
And at Tapas, you can order the 7 things because they're all going to come out. They're going to be just small portions. You're going to have a taste of that, a taste of this, a taste of this, and you get to try a ton of stuff. And yeah, like you said, it's a social environment, which is also enjoyable.
Yeah. It's not for everyone, though.
I'm a big fan.
I'm an okay fan, but I'll enjoy it. I will always go out and eat tapas, and then maybe I'll get a burger afterwards. But yeah, I recommend it if you've never done it before.
It sounds like you just didn't order enough.
maybe I should have spent a couple more hours at the restaurant.
Yeah, it is not fast. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
All right. Something that has nothing to do with fast or not fast. I tried.
Oh, no. It's a fast format. Turn 4 kills. Turn 3-4 kills, right?
The Masters of Modern podcast. We're talking about Modern, of course. So the Masters of Modern by Alex Kessler and Ben Bateman. You can find them on Twitter at the Mcast. They are our sister podcast. They just had their year-end wrap-up episode, which was very good. Alex and Ben talk about Modern and all things competitive Magic. You can find them also right next to us at collected.company.
And our editor for the show is Terry Robertson, who's editing this episode very quickly because we weren't able to record last week. So big ups to Terry. He's done a great job with all the video content and the audio. You can check all our video content out at youtube.com/the Command Zone podcast. And those videos are adorned with loving, awesome living card animations from Geoffrey Palmer, who you can find at livingcardsmtg on Twitter.
All right, everybody, don't forget, if you're a patron, you have a chance to win either a Kaladesh bundle or one of the Planeswalker decks next episode. So if you're not signed up for Patreon, go to patreon.com/commandzone to have a chance to win that stuff next week. All right, we'll see you next time.
See ya. Peace. Bye.
I screwed that up, didn't I?
I stole your line.
Thanks for listening is what I'm supposed to say.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon-ish.
Peace.
Out.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.